Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place we discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. Joining me once again is my co-host Tocayo, Adrian. Adrian, what's good, man?
Hey, how's it going, dude? Tuesday night, September friendlies are over. Walk in the park from the USMNT. Am I right?
You're right, but walk in the park with an asterisk. Not the greatest of opposition, but we'll talk about it, and you know, a lot. I think there's a good amount to discuss here and take away. So let's get right into it. Six things we learned, man. Obviously, the USMNT faced Uzbekistan on the 9th of September, winning 3-0. Goals from Tim Weah, Ricardo Pepi, and Christian Pulisic. Although, important to note, this was a 1-0 game until the 92nd minute, so that's kind of deceiving. It wasn't the, oh my God, 3-0 destruction of Uzbekistan that the score makes you think it was. Two of the goals were in 92nd and 95th minutes, so for a long while there, it was a boring 1-0. Can't break Uzbekistan's backline game. And then another 4-0 win today, Tuesday on the 12th, for USA against Oman. Balogun scored, Brendan Aronson scored, Ricardo Pepi another goal, and an own goal from an Oman defender there, making it 4-0 in a much more convincing win, but against the easier opponent. Let's get into our takeaways. For the USA, we'll start off with the good here. I think the strikers, Ricardo Pepi, Balogun, they're firing, man. Pepi scored two
Yeah.
goals, Balogun scored. Um, it's just a good thing for the USMNT. You have two players who are proving themselves and competing with each other at a high level. Obviously, Balogun just moved to Monaco, so he'll be playing there. Uh, Ricardo Pepi has been kind of trying to prove himself after being snubbed for the World Cup and has been doing really well and kind of just showed Greg that, hey, man, you shouldn't have snubbed me. I scored two goals here, really well taken goals. So, yeah, anytime you have your strikers, both strikers firing like this, it's good, right? I mean, USA has always missed and has always lacked having a proper number nine, and now it looks like two number nines are developing really well for the USA. So a positive there for the US to start. Would you agree?
No, yeah. I mean, I was gonna say there's nothing to complain about in here. I mean, even if they, they're not seeing a lot of game time with their clubs, it just goes to show that these are two guys that are ready to go, right? Whenever you call them up, whenever you need them, whenever you put them on, they're gonna be out there trying to score, trying to prove themselves, and trying to make sure that they want that starting striker uh, role. So this is gonna be a good thing, but also difficult situation for Triple G to determine who's going to be his go-to striker, because both of them are, just essentially an asset on the team, right? I think
Yeah.
whether you put Pepi or you put Balogun, they both understand their teammates. They both realize what's the style of play, and no matter no matter if one starts or the other one comes as a sub, you have more than plenty of ammunition to fire back at the opposition.
Yeah. Um, that kind of leads us into the bad for these two matches, the opposition. Okay, so yeah, the USMNT scored 7 goals, but he wasn't exactly against world beaters, right? I mean, it was Oman and Uzbekistan. Um, the USMNT has to find a way to play games out of the US, or play games in the US against better opposition to test themselves. Yeah, this is a good sweet second stint opener for Greg. That's probably why they did it, just in case, so he wouldn't lose on his second, his debut back on his second stint.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess good on that. But I mean, playing these two guys, there's not really much that you're going to learn from if you're a player here. Um, you just face injury really, and I guess just stat padding at this point. But yeah, the USA definitely please going forward line up some better opposition.
Damn, dude. I mean, I get it. I totally agree. I second your thought. I don't think these were well, first of all, were I don't know if this is the same situation as Mexico, because I know Mexico had the September friendlies to happen in Europe when Diego Coca was still the coach, and they rescheduled them and brought it back to the states because of the whole thing that happened. But I'm not too sure if the USMNT is on the same page. And regardless of that, um, I want to say that I second your thought on these matches were meant for having a triumphant return of Triple G, right? They didn't want him to show up and lose against a strong opposition. Granted, if they would have played someone a more competitive team and they would have won, he would have been, I guess, praised even more because of of being the I guess the dog coach who got played by one of his uh, uh, players' parents and then came back, keep everything under control, keep the cool, and they still have the support of your players, right? So it would have been great to have like Japan did over this friendly matches, right? They defeated
In Germany.
Germany,
Yeah.
and I think Japan and the United States are pretty much on a similar path of developing talent and trying to compete with the big dogs of the international football. So I mean, these are like homecoming games for Triple G. These are homecoming games for him to show his guns, to be out there and be like, hey, you know what? This is a party. If you join the USMNT, this is the kind of matches you're going to be looking at. They're trying to get people riled up and whatnot, but I think this can backfire on them if things go bad, right? In the next few matches, if things go bad in Copa America, if they don't qualify for Copa America, I think it's also going to look bad. Because you're gonna get people asking, hey, so if we knew that we had to prepare for this big tournament, right? Why are we wasting our time with the likes of Oman and Uzbekistan? Don't get me wrong. I mean no disrespect for these two teams, but honestly, do you really think that these are good training oppositions for the USMNT? Right? Do you really think that the players from the USMNT are gonna get better facing these kind of players?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. It could definitely backfire. Like you said, if they fail again to qualify for some major tournament. Um, but I couldn't put it better myself. You nailed it right on the head there. It was a homecoming appearance for Triple G, and I mean he won both 7-0, 7-0 total for the two games. So can't really ask for better homecoming there.
For
Speaking of
real.
Triple G, one of our neutral points here for this six things we learned is Greg Berhalter himself. Um, there's positives and negatives to him for this September window. Positives, he named a very strong squad. Except missing Tyler Adams, Giovanni Reina, it's probably the strongest squad you can name at this point for the USMNT. Um, that was good. But at the same time, there were some key points, especially against Australia, Uzbekistan. Um, like I mentioned earlier in this episode, it was a very deceiving result. It was 3-0 because of two very late goals. But throughout that match, if you were watching that match, he really was not adapting to the situation where he was in. He kept trying to have the players cross the ball instead of going directly through the middle,
Yeah.
or trying to do play on the ground, play one touch. He didn't adapt to it was not working, just crossing from the flanks. So that's kind of a negative. Again, he got lucky because it was Uzbekistan and Oman. I mean, can he adapt? Did he learn anything from the Netherlands game in the World Cup? Can he adapt to play like and win against bigger opposition? We'll see. But as of right now, I think overall neutral for Triple G, because I think with this squad, I mean anybody could have beat these two teams. I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I saw a ton of memes of people criticizing Triple G of just focusing on crossing, which if I guess if you have a striker that is lethal on playing by air, then yeah, crossing makes sense, right? But you don't really have that on Balogun or Pepi. Don't get me wrong, Pepi is not necessarily short. Balogun is,
Yeah.
but heading is not their strongest suit. So it's just interesting to see how he heavily relies on that, and it just makes me feel that. uh, he is not as innovative as we all think he is, right? And if he keeps on doing this, man, memes are gonna keep on coming, and all of a sudden we're gonna be calling this, instead of the USMNT, it's gonna be the US National Crossing Team. Because goddamn, how many crosses you want to make on one match?
Yeah, I know. It if you like I said, there's we don't have that type of forward, so definitely trying to find a system that works best for the type of strikers that the
Yeah.
USMNT has. So yeah, net neutral for Triple G there. Another positive from this window, I think, will be the clean sheets. You had two different goalies for each match. You had Matt Turner play against Uzbekistan and Ethan Horvath play against Oman. Two goalies who surprisingly, I mean, play together at the club level as well. But both kept a clean sheet. Again, not the biggest opposition, not the best opposition, but I mean, anytime you're able to keep a clean sheet, it's good. Gives you confidence moving forward for you as a having your defenders in front of you and for you as a keeper. And yeah, I mean, what else can you say there? Two clean sheets, two games. I mean, good on the goalkeepers. Good on the goalkeeper.
Boy, boy, I want to say that you're reaching, really, really reaching to make this a good thing for these six things we learn with the clean sheets. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a bad thing. But um, if I mean, you're essentially, we said that a bad thing was the opposition, right? So, well, that one thing, and then also you mentioning that it's kind of deceiving, especially against Uzbekistan. Uh, so to me, I would have put this more for neutral rather than a positive. Uh, just because of that specific situation where these are not a strong opposition. They were they weren't that challenge to begin with.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's always nice to have a clean sheet, but I just want to echo your comment on these are a little deceiving, right? If it was against Germany, if it was against Spain, if it was against a South American team, then yeah, definitely clean sheets again. Those stronger teams are a good thing, but I would have just put it, as a neutral rather than a positive. But hey, keeping a 0-0, man.
I mean, I agree. I agree. We'll move it to a neutral. I think you made some good points. That's fine. Um, a good thing that I think does deserve to be mentioned as a good, based off his performance, was Weston McKennie, especially in that second match against Oman. He was critical to two of the goals, and just he played the whole match and was able to dominate the midfield. And that brings us back to the point you made, not the greatest opposition, but yeah, I mean, he did have a really good performance for someone that often struggles and is unpredictable with how he plays with the USMNT. He's either very very good or average, right, or sometimes bad. But these two games, he was definitely one of the highlights on the field there. Weston McKennie.
This one I'll buy, man. This one I'll for sure think is a good thing. These are the kind of matches that you want, right? These are the kind of matches that you want for players like him, that he feels the confident, that he regains that momentum, that he's able to go back to his club and, reassert himself as a contender for a starting 11 position, right? So this is definitely a good thing that we learned, that McKinney, at least on these two matches, showed confidence, showed leadership, and showed commitment to the team.
Yeah. Last positive here. I think positive just because he got his debut in the second match against Oman. He played really well at the right. He was a right wing back. Kevin Paredes, the young player that plays
Yeah.
in Germany for Wolfsburg. He finally got to make his debut as the full time USMNT player, and he played really well. Didn't get. I think he came on the second half against Oman. He looked lively. I think it was because of him that the USMNT got the fourth goal. It was his cross that rebounded off the defender at the near post from Oman,
Hmm.
and he was taking on his defenders, his markers, and beating them, and was able to find crosses in. And he was crossing what I noticed on the ground. He wasn't trying to find somebody in the air like a balogun or pepi, where we're not that crazy good in the air. So very mature performance from the young Bundesliga player. and I think he just adds more depth to the USMNT there at the right wing back. So good performance from Kevin Paredes.
This is definitely a good thing that we learned because now we know that there's some depth to that specific position for the USMNT. I think this is one of those areas where, at least in 2022 during Qatar, we know that it was an area for, or opportunity for improvement for the USMNT. And also, it's a good thing because this shows that this isn't just a, you know, I guess, call up for capping a player for the sake of capping a player, right? This is something that it's a good move. It makes sense to bring him in as a USMNT player. They are not just tying him to the USMNT for the sake of tying him. They understand that he can that that both the USMNT and the player can benefit from this specific relationship. So I'm glad to see that the USMNT is not only cap tying players for just the sake of keeping or protecting their talent, right? I think this
Hmm.
goes to show that the scouting of the USSF, while not perfect, is actually working, and that Triple G still has that good thing about him, which is scouting.
Yeah, that pool, right? He's able to attract this talent. Now that leads the USMNT to having really two good pieces in each left back and right back position.
Hmm.
You have Serginho Dest and Paredes on the one side, and then you have Anthony Robinson, Joe Scally, and even who was the other player that started today for the USMNT there on the left?
Uh,
It was
it
Hansen.
wasn't yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's another Christopher Lund Hansen. So you get another uh, depth piece there, right? So
Hmm.
uh, good call ups, good cap ties. So all in all, I think a good performance from Cam Paredes. Adrian, man, as we wrap this episode up, dude, where can our listeners find us, brother?
Man, they can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Puro Pinche Gol. We post stuff every now and then.
Yep, and be sure to let us know in the comments. What did you take away from these matches for the USMNT? Are you happy that Triple G is back? How did you see his performance and his player selection for the September window? Definitely interested and always exciting to read you guys' comments there in the comment section below. Adrian, man, September friendlies have come to an end. It's been fun, brother. I'll see you in the next one.
Take it easy, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Likewise, dude. See ya.
Deuce.